We are going live.
Good morning. Today is Friday, March 3rd. This is the last short segment of the committee work for Senate Natural Resources and Energy. We're discussing S100, the housing bill. So I just wanted to close the topic for today and ask that we have a commitment as a committee to vote out a bill no later than Wednesday. So that means that we need to I would request that anyone who feels like they have language they would like to present can talk, well, you will be available. So, but you will be back in on, will you be working on Monday, whatever, okay. So that I would ask members of the committee to corral together suggested changes for the language, that we work with council on that Monday, so that by the time we come in on Tuesday, we have language that we can review as a committee in terms of possible amendments to the bill. That way we'll be able to work through those, discuss them, and then have a clean amendment prepared for Wednesday voting. I think that would be our schedule. That way we'll thrash things out on Tuesday, come to an agreement, and then the clean copy go around Wednesday, and we'll leave our commitment to the committee.
So can I amend that?
Yeah.
So sending it to me sooner rather than later. Also, it would be helpful now if there was a sense of how many provisions you're going to request. Because drafting something on Monday afternoon is going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
So if you could send it to me no later than Friday. Because I don't even know what the scope of the work you're about to ask me to do is.
Yeah.
And also, generally during markup, you discuss what topics you are preparing to amend. So I don't have, and I just read you 32 pages. So can I have a sense of the scope? I mean, I know you just finished, but.
Right. So I don't know if people are going to be available during town meeting week. I think, so how about this, to help us, I'll put together a list as best I know from, our read through, things I've marked up, things I've heard us talk about, and try to get the ball rolling and then send it off, and we can all, edit that document and then put things in and out. That way we'll have at least sort of a thoughtful list for our counselor by next Friday, a week from today.
Mr. Chairman, this committee has just spent 7 weeks on one bill. We are now asked to pass what is in fact a Natural Resources Committee bill. It is a bill under our jurisdiction. It's called a housing bill. It is a permitting bill, at least half of it is. It has to do with Act 250 and other permits, which are under the jurisdiction of this committee. And another committee has taken it upon itself to basically raid our jurisdiction, invade our jurisdiction, and pass a bill that is in our jurisdiction. And we are being told that we have a duty to do our part of this in a matter of days. And that it was almost as though we're being remiss in our duties if we don't rush through this. And I think the underlying premise is questionable, that we can do anything about housing simply by weakening our environmental protections. So that since they've raided our jurisdiction, I will raid theirs, and I'll start holding forth on my opinions about housing. And I don't think the housing bill even does the housing part, because it puts too much attention on stuff that doesn't impede housing. And inconveniences. Takes some time, takes some money. Things take time, things take money. We don't have a housing crisis here because of that. So it's not only that I want to protect activity because it serves people well, and a raid on it, I think, is a bad thing, and dressing it up as a housing bill is still what it is. It's an anti-Act 250 bill. I want to protect the people's interest in Act 250, but also I think that we still need to address the issue of housing. So I think we should take whatever time we need. Crossover is flexibility. Crossover doesn't count if leadership says it doesn't. So.
Understood, Senator White.
So to answer Alan's question, I think the two places that I'm going to be asking for work on will be the particularized interest one. And what I will shoot you an email about is my hope is that we can either do to the point of taking out the 10 folks, instead having it say particularized interest. I'm also interested in maybe doing 10 people with a particularized interest rather than just a particularized interest, because I actually think that could be a lower standard in some situations than the 10 people point. But I would have to, so that's the direction for that one. And then the other place that I'm interested is what we spoke about earlier, which is the section that would have Senator McCormick's umbrella permit possibly overlaying with the enhanced designation piece. And I don't know if there would be a way to make that an option for our community. That's kind of the direction I would see changes that I would be supportive of. So I will work with Ellen on those two. Besides that, I don't have anything that I'm honed in on that I will be requesting changes on. Okay.
So, thank you. Now, because we're going for 3 minutes, I don't want, but need to hit the pause button on S100 entirely. I want to pass out an amendment that may be offered on the floor today, so you get to see it. And I would like to. The challenge is to have any amendment offered for third reading on the floor on something with some legal complexity. So it's not, from my point of view, it's not good process. I just wanted to let people know, Council, can you interpret this a little bit for us?
Yes. The amendment before you from Senator Brock amends the section 8131 that was added yesterday by the appropriation amendment, the so-called check back. So this is a statutory provision that's being added to the chapter. And so this language would supersede what was added by the appropriation committee, but it makes two changes to that language. So notwithstanding any other provision of law to the contrary, I'm gonna stop there for a minute. That would include any law in the chapter adopted in their S5 or any existing law in Title 30 that gives the PUC authority. So it is broad enough to cover any. So it is notwithstanding any other existing law to the contrary. The commission shall not file proposed rules with the Secretary of State or issue any orders implementing the Clean Heat Standard without specific authorization enacted as an act by the General Assembly by this law. Listen, in accordance with Chapter 2, Section 11 of the Constitution. Reference to the Constitution is the presentment clause of the Constitution, which requires that bills passed by the legislature, both bodies of the legislature, be sent to the governor for presentment, at which point the governor has the option to sign, allow it to become without his signature, or veto, and then the process for veto override. So it's making explicit what was already implicit. It's just including the reference to the Constitution. And there's a second sentence which is also new. The act shall address how the Clean Heat Standard is to be implemented, how clean heat credits are to be priced, the results of the Commission's analysis of the impact on customer rates and fuel bills, and the results of the Commission's analysis of impacts on economic activity and employment. This is a slightly unusual provision to me. It is important to remember that the legislature cannot bind future legislatures and require them to do anything. However, this language avoids that indirectly by dictating what would be in an act to be passed. So I think it does avoid that issue slightly. but it is a little bit odd because it includes all these other elements that will need to be in the bill that is passed. So I'm not quite sure what those would what form that would take. They may take the form of findings, or they may take the form of additional statutory provisions that would amend the Clean Heat chapter. But they would need to be included in the act that is passed.
Given the total of 5 reports that come out of the rulemaking process that we have, and the other one is DPS is not part of the rulemaking. I don't know why we would specify that an act would include those things when the work product will be, that a future legislature will be evaluating, will include all that data.
Yes, thank you, Chair Bray. I'm not comfortable with this amendment. If we were to vote on it as a committee, I would vote that we not support this amendment. And that's because I believe that the problem it's trying to address is already addressed in the appropriations amendment, which is to not allow a legislature to just full steam ahead without having it be looked at by that legislature.
And Senator Watson.
Would this prevent the PUC from gathering data to move forward with,
No.
not even like the tax department, whatever, supplying?
No, and I'll just speak broadly about the legal implications of the existing 8131 and this provision. So 2 things in the appropriations amendment spoke to the fact that that check back provision requires enactment of a law. But first, this language is a full bar to the PUC adopting rules or issuing orders. It is a statutory provision, and if you ever want the PUC to issue orders or rules on the clean heat standard, this statute would need to be amended or repealed. Secondly, yes, not this language in Senator Brock's amendment, but the language that was added to S5 yesterday. It's a statutory provision that will stand until it has been amended or repealed by an action of the legislature. That action, to be constitutional, would need to be a bill passed into law. It could not be anything less than that, because that would be unconstitutional. So it could not be a resolution. And then also within the text of this itself, it does use the word enacted. A action by the legislature is enacted when it goes through the constitutional process of going through both bodies and presented to the governor. So the drafting of it was ensured that there were 2 ways that it was clear that a bill would be required.
So it's statutory language, so a statute is amended by further statute. And then
Bill.
Yeah, thank you, a bill. And when we pass bills, they require a vote of both bodies in the chamber and present them to the governor.
Yes.
Okay, so.
And so the first part of this amendment is just making it very clear it's adding the constitutional reference. For the second sentence, it's adding a new concept.
Mr. Chair, in the opening remarks, it makes explicit what was implicit in what we delivered yesterday.
Yes.
Okay,
In colloquial, it would be, they will deliver us a pair of pants that has neither belts nor suspenders, and it will be up to the next legislature. Hold those pants up, so.
okay.
Our bill is up for 3rd reading.
Yes, it is. So would like to take a committee vote on whether or not the committee supports this amendment, so that if that comes remain to our conversation on the floor, I can represent the committee's perspective. So the question is, all those in favor of supporting this amendment, S5, by possibly to be offered by Senator Rock. He wasn't entirely sure he was going to offer it. Please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Okay, committee vote is 0-5. And let me see, need to
0,
rephrase the
5,
question.
0.
We oppose the amendment by a vote of 5-0-0. Okay. Very much. Committee.
What's our reaction?
I think it's already inherent in the law,
Or to define it.
what we already have. I mean,
This-
I don't know if you,